What's up guys, Dobbs here, and today I'm playing Pokemon, but with a twist. Every time I defeat a gym leader, the game will randomly change into a new one, forcing me to transfer all my Pokemon, my items, and even my money to continue in a new game. But that's not all, because I'm taking on this challenge with nuzlocke rules, meaning Pokemon can literally die and my encounters are limited, making this challenge even harder. Will it be possible for me to make it all the way to the Elite Four by completing 9 different games? Let's find out and start our journey in the Johto region. So we started our journey in the Johto region, my personal favorite, if you didn't know. And immediately we were hit with the toughest question in Pokemon. Do we want Chikorita as our starter? No. I picked Cynical because I thought it'd be funny to see how bad his flames are in the later games if we even make it that far. Because Gaver did Typhlosion pretty dirty in those 3DS games. And I named him Bark after a new Bark town. But then I realized something very important. We need a Kanto Pokemon. Because if this challenge sends us back to the Kanto region after the next gym, and we don't have any Kanto Pokemon on our team, we just straight up lose because Johto Pokemon are not in the Kanto game, so how would we even progress without a Pokemon? So my entire mission became finding at least one Kanto Pokemon as fast as possible. And luckily we did. Enter our new main Pokemon, Geodude, who I named Dude. Fun fact, the catching tutorial guy in the original Johto games is literally named Dude, so it felt perfect to name this Geodude Dude, not based on his actual name. I also ended up catching a Rattata, a Wooper, a Ghastly, and even a Hoothoot. So the team was actually looking pretty solid in case Kanto ended up being our next region. I absolutely bodied Faulkner using Geodude's Rock Throw and breezed through the first gym badge. Everything was going great until suddenly the worst possible thing happened. We spin Galar for the next region. The thing about Pokemon Sword and Shield is that there's this huge controversy around it because a lot of Pokemon were just not available in the game. Something people called Dexit during that time. And unfortunately, I got hit pretty hard by this because literally half of my team was no longer available, even with the DLC. So we lost Dude, Bark, and even our poor Rattata that I named Joey after youngster Joey and his top percent Rattata. The second major problem we faced was that the level inflation in Pokemon is kind of insane. To put it into perspective, Faulkner's highest level Pokemon is level 9, but the first gym leader in Galar, Milo's highest level Pokemon is literally level 20, and it can even Dynamax. So losing both of our aces, Geodude and Cyndaquil, made Galar extremely tough, and suddenly the trainers and even wild Pokemon became terrifying. And because of that, I decided to fly all the way back to Route 1 and start grinding our Pokemon to catch up with the times. But this got me thinking, the Pokemon we still had were actually really promising. Ghastly, who I named Violet, and Wooper, who I named Rue, are both really popular Pokemon with the fans. And if you're a popular Pokemon like, I don't know, Charizard, that means usually you're in most Pokemon games, which made these two Pokemon kind of bulletproof for this challenge. But after gaining a few levels, we headed into the wild area for the first time with a brand new mission in mind. First, don't die to this freaking Onix here who will one-shot us and destroy our entire run. It's like level 20 with like Dragon Breath. And 2, catch an early generation electric-type Pokemon because Nessa will be our next gym leader. So it would be smart to find a Pokemon that's bulletproof and can take care of her pretty easily. But the odds of this happening were pretty low because for where we're at in the game, not a lot of early generation electric-type Pokemon exist. But somehow we found this Manectric here by this bridge, luckily enough. And I figured it would work pretty well because it is from Generation 3, early enough in my opinion. And honestly, if we spend a later game for our next gym badge, we might be able to Mega Evolve this thing. So I caught it and named it Thunder because there was a thunderstorm brewing up around us. It was getting kind of scary. But something even more thunderous happened on the very next route, because Route 4 of these games is kind of an Easter egg to the Let's Go games. You have the Eevees on one side and the Pikachus on the other side. And I just happened to run into a literal Pikachu, possibly the holy grail of Pokemon for this entire challenge, because Pikachu, the literal mascot of Pokemon, has to be in every single Pokemon game, right? Even in Unova, where you cannot find it in the grass or in the wild anywhere, it is still available through transfers. And that's what we're doing with our games. We're transferring from game to game. So if we caught this legendary Pikachu here, we would be locking in a permanent team member for the rest of the challenge, if it survives. And luckily, we caught it. Boom, Pikachu was secured. And we named it Unhinged, since we found it near some stone hinges on Route 4, and it was able to relearn Nasty Plot, meaning it's thinking some pretty unhinged thoughts. Because that's what the description of Nasty Plot says, where the Pokemon thinks of bad thoughts to up its stats. It's pretty dark, man. So this Pikachu is pretty unhinged. And from that moment on, Pikachu became our new main for this challenge. And it immediately proved itself. It was hailing trainers with ease. We would set up Nasty Plot, think some bad thoughts, throw in a few double teams, and boom, sweep with Electro Ball, and the battle was over. Unhinged became completely untouchable. Even Team Yell and Hop had no chance to get to this Pikachu. It was just rolling everybody. And to make things even better, I found the holy grail item for this Pikachu, a magnet. Okay, it's not a light bulb, but still, the magnet boosts electric type moves, so it made Pikachu even stronger. But before battling Nessa, I decided to do one more encounter in Holeberry because I did get this old rod from this fisherman here. And I ended up encountering and catching a Chinchou, who I named Chinberry, which was actually really clutch because it's another electric type Pokemon for Nessa, and it was around the same level as Unhinged, making it another ace for the team. And the capture also gave Rue enough experience to evolve into Quagsire because in the later game, when you catch Pokemon, your Pokemon still get XP from that. So this entire last minute decision was super clutch because now we have a fully evolved Pokemon and 2 electric type Pokemon for Nessa. And then now it was time to battle Nessa, after doing this really annoying puzzle that I spent too long trying to figure out. Also, this trainer kept crashing my game and it was really annoying, so I had to like kind of avoid her when I was doing it too. And it was pretty nerve-wracking at first because the Galar gym leaders can, you know, Dynamax and blow up their Pokemon to building size levels. But honestly, Unhinged just didn't care because all I could focus on was just his bad thoughts, whatever I was thinking about. Man, I feel kind of bad for this Pikachu here. We tore through her entire team, including her giant turtle that looked like Bowser, which we one-shot with Max Lightning with our giant Pikachu, who was just thinking the worst thoughts imaginable. I can only imagine what he's thinking over there, or she's thinking. What are you thinking over there, Pikachu? And just like that, we earned our second gym badge and made this challenge look pretty easy. But if only I knew the twisted fate of this Pikachu. It will make a turn for a worse later on. Things were about to get very rough. But first, we made a pit stop in Johto for our next region again, because somehow we spin it twice on this wheel. And man, the TMs we picked up in Galar absolutely paid off. They absolutely paid off because they converted into really powerful moves. TM57 turned into Charge Beam, which was perfect for Pikachu since it lost Electro Ball in the duration downgrade. TM26 converted to Earthquake, one of the all-time best moves in Pokemon, period, giving Rue a powerful ground-type stab move. And honestly, the synergy between Unhinged and Rue was amazing. Rue can handle rock and ground-type Pokemon that Unhinged couldn't, and Unhinged could deal with flying and water-type Pokemon that Rue struggled with. And since the level inflation in the later games is insane, like Milo with a level 20 Gossifleur, and Thunder over here with a level 9 Pidgeotto that is illegal, even especially with the experience all that you get in those games, our team was pretty jacked, which made this return in Johto way less frightening, even though Whitney is our next gym leader, one of the most frightening gym leaders of all time. I also decided to bring Bark back onto the team since he was our starter Pokemon, but man, the amount of times this Pokemon got hit with a status condition was unbelievable. Now I'm gonna get paralyzed 3 times in a row, just watch. 1. Bro, this Quilava just can't catch a break, man. Nearly every battle he was in, he was either paralyzed, asleep, or poisoned. It also became a meme, and I started feeling bad for it. But nonetheless, we dealt with it. And while I was training for the next gym, I really wanted to get the move Thunderbolt for Unhinged, because that's kind of like the holy grail move for Pikachu, I'd say, behind Volt Tackle, of course. So I tried my luck at the game corner with Voltorb Flip, and I'm not gonna lie, guys, I used to play this game unironically on my DS back in the day just for fun. I would literally boot up Pokemon Heart Gold and play Voltorb Flip for hours and had so much fun with it. I got really good, but all of that knowledge on how to play the game kind of just went out the window. So I really just had no idea what I was doing. So I just kind of gave up after realizing this would take me hours to get the TM for Thunderbolt by getting enough coins. But to my surprise, the very next level Pikachu got, it learned Thunderbolt naturally. So I basically just avoided wasting like hours and hours playing Voltorb Flip for a move that I would have gotten just 5 minutes later. So now we have the Holy Grail Pokemon with a semi-Holy Grail item and the Holy Grail Electric-type move on it. This thing was the god of Pokemon for this challenge. This Pikachu with the messed up thoughts. I also happen to be playing this game on a Tuesday, which meant we could do the bug catching contest in the national park. And somehow I managed to encounter a Pinsir on my very first encounter in that area. One of the rarest Pokemon you can find in the grass, especially in the bug catching contest. And I actually caught it and named it Pineco. Even though it's not a Pineco, it probably eats Pineco. I don't know why I did that, but I still lost the bug catching contest to a Kakuna. So yeah, I guess the Pinsir wasn't that great after all. And after that, it was time to take on Whitney, one of the hardest, most terrifying gym leaders in all of Pokemon. Her team is infamous. For one, Clefairy has Metronome, which means you can literally roll any move in the game. Explosion, Horn Drill, Splash, Earthquake, something that could instantly wipe us or do absolutely nothing. I don't know. This is the most wildcard Pokemon out of any gym leader ever, I would say. This Clefairy can do anything at once. And then there's her Miltank, known for his solid attack stat and his terrifying potential with rollout. If you don't stop stop it before the second rollout, it is basically over because it'll just start steamrolling you. And this terrified me. So to prepare for this battle, I decided to buy some X Defense at the Goldenrod Supermart to make Pikachu a bit more tanky, because we have to keep in mind that it's still an unevolved Pokemon with mediocre stats. I mean, it doesn't have his Light Ball, or it's not a partner Pikachu. It's just a regular Pikachu from the wild. And I wasn't confident that it could survive a Miltank's rollout. So it was time to talk to Whitney and start the battle. And oh my God, it actually happened. Here we go. Explosion! No! No, it did not! Oh my God, I can't set up! I can't set up now! Her Clefairy used Metronome and landed on Explosion. Yes, the absolute worst possible outcome happened with this Pokemon. And if you didn't know, Explosion halves the opponent's defense, meaning Pikachu would have died if I hadn't used X Defense on it. This is not the first time that X Defense became clutch for me in a Nuzlocke. I mean, just watch the versus what I did with Vinny several years ago. I literally still can't believe that happened. That was just insane. Now it's time for her ace, Miltank. And with Unhinged being at half HP and the potential for her to start rollout at any moment, things got serious. I thought about it for a while and decided to heal up, and luckily it went for Stomp instead of Rollouts. And without even setting up any nasty plots, my Thunderbolt was able to two-shot it. That's right, Whitney's Miltank got two-shotted by this Pikachu, and Whitney went down, and we secured our third gym badge. Unhinged was on cloud 9, even while thinking the weirdest thoughts and craziest thoughts it could think of. But that feeling wasn't going to last much longer. Finally, we spinned a different game, Sinnoh being our next region, and I immediately got hit with a rival battle against Barry. And honestly, the fight wasn't too bad. Unhinged was level 31 and basically one-shot everything he had. But in the very next battle, something I did not expect happened. Unhinged stopped obeying us. Wait, did Pikachu just disobey me? No. No, it did not. Because turns out in the Sinnoh games, transferred Pokemon over level 31 will not obey you if you only have 3 badges. And that was terrible news because our next gym leader was Crasher Wake, a water type specialist. Pokemon that Unhinged would normally destroy, but now has become completely unusable because its bad thoughts have hit a singularity. So our new game plan was this: to find another ace and hopefully a Thunderstone so we can evolve Unhinged for the next region, when it will start obeying us and possibly just start thinking more positive thoughts. And luckily on the same routes, we caught a Roselia, which I named Solacea, based on the next town we're heading to, Solaceon Town. And man, I slept on Roselia because it was absolutely annihilating trainers left and right. And even better, in the Solaceon ruins, there was a Thunderstone we grabbed to evolve Pikachu, but I was waiting on doing it so we could level up a few more moves on it. Oh, and of course, Bark got paralyzed again, but this time I predicted it. I knew it was going to happen, so I put a Lumberry on him so that it would cure it in battle. Why do you keep getting status conditioned, Bark? I just can't with this Pokemon. Everything was looking great. Unhinged was thinking, I guess, happier thoughts. Bark was continuing on getting paralyzed, I guess. And our Roselia was just getting all the levels in the world. I was on cloud 9 until we ran into a forced double battle before Valestone City. Because unbeknownst to me, this double battle is pretty infamous in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl lore. These two trainers are actually nuts with 6 pretty powerful Pokemon. And this is where the entire challenge took a turn for the worse. Pikachu, our holy grail god Pokemon, dies. It got badly poisoned by toxic spikes and then double teamed by both opponents, fainting on the spot. And since this is Nuzlocke rules, Unhinged was gone for good. It wasn't the god of Pokemon for this challenge, it was the false god. It failed us. And it didn't stop there because we lost Rue as well with our precious Earthquake TM that we invested on it. The Roselia was shredding our team, especially with Leech Seed active. We barely won this battle with Solicia and Violet, who evolved to Haunter after the fact. And somehow we completed this crazy route that have Wild Scythers and this crazy double battle that have fully evolved Pokemon that shred you. I didn't expect to lose Unhinged and Rue, but here we are. And unbeknownst to me, again, this wasn't even the worst part. When we finally entered Valestone City, I noticed something was off. Crasher Wake, who's supposed to be our next gym leader, shows up and introduces us to Maline, who he says is our next gym leader. And then it hit me. We were playing Pokemon Platinum, not Diamond and Pearl. And apparently in this game, I completely forgot forgot, the gym order is different. Crash Wake is actually the 5th gym in this game, not the 4th, which meant that I had spent the entire region training my Roselia to battle fighting type Pokemon. I had no idea how we were going to survive this, and I didn't want to just go train out and grind Pokemon for hours because that's just not fun to me. So I decided to test the water to see how Roselia would do against this gym and battled a few trainers inside of it. And honestly, it didn't seem that bad. We were handling most of them with ease until we ran into Black Belt Jeffrey. His Heracross was basically kryptonite to our entire team. It has an insanely high attack stat, and Solicia has a terrible defense. Not to mention that Solicia is weak to bug and flying type moves, and this Heracross even had aerial ace on it. I immediately panicked and returned Roselia and then brought up my Ponyta that I had caught in a previous route, who I named Celesta. Hilariously, one of the only fire type Pokemon that you can get before the Elite Four in these games, and we got it. And it didn't do a thing to this Heracross. It was one-shotted by its aerial ace. And Heracross even one-shotted Chimberry as well. But Chimberry didn't die in vain because it was able to paralyze it, allowing Violet to come in and confuse it with Confuse Ray. And luckily, having such high attack stat, it hit itself in confusion and knocked itself out at nearly half HP. We just barely survived this battle. Oh my god. Are there any other trainers left? I really hope not. And I'm not gonna lie, this battle worried me. I was thinking, if a random trainer in this gym can do that much damage to us, how in the heck are we supposed to beat the gym leader? Luckily, just like in Goldenrod City, there was a supermarket nearby in the same town. So I invested heavily in X items to prepare for the battle. And I walked in the gym, did the annoying puzzle for the 2nd time, and I risked everything and pressed A on Maline. It was time to do a battle that I did not train for. Immediately when the battle started, I used X special defenses because the only thing I was truly worried about with Meditite was his confusion, which will be super effective against Solicia because it is a poison type Pokemon. I basically spammed X items and prayed that Maline wouldn't critical hit us. And somehow we barely pulled it off, defeating her Meditite, Machoke, and even her level 32 Lucario, who literally lived through my stab Giga Drain while having +6 X specials. Crazy. But we managed to land our 4th gym badge in this crazy challenge. If Maline had a Heracross, it would be game over. Thank God Black Belt Jeffrey wasn't the gym leader that day. And just like that, it was time to spin for our next region again. And what do you know? We landed on Johto again. Somehow we rolled this region 3 times in just 3 gym badges. But honestly, I was completely fine with that because the level curve in these games are pretty bad, which meant our Pokemon were actually looking really strong here. And on top of that, I wasn't too worried about Chuck since his Pokemon didn't feel that threatening against our current team. I was pretty confident that Roselia could handle him with ease. So I decided to use this opportunity to find a surfing Pokemon so that we could surf to see what city. So I tried my luck in Equity City, and man, I struck absolute gold. We encountered a Magikarp, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say this, but this is actually the holy grail of all Pokemon for this entire challenge. Yes, a Magikarp. Because it turns out that Magikarp and Gyarados are in more Pokemon games than any other Pokemon that exists, even including the spin-offs. They're in every single Pokemon game except for only 3 of them. If any Pokemon deserves the holy grail title, it's these 2. So I easily caught the Magikarp, named it Magitique, and immediately evolved it into a Gyarados because it was already level 20. And honestly, this was perfect because our team was lacking a water type Pokemon, and Gyarados in itself is just a dominant Pokemon in general. And its Intimidate ability is one of the best abilities in the entire series, if not the best. And then I realized something huge. Not only can we get a second Gyarados that was shiny in the Lake of Rage, but we can unlock the experience share by trading the red scale to Mr. Pokemon, which in later games turns into the Experience All, which allowed all Pokemon on your team to gain experience. So I went on a training montage with my new Gyarados, stocked up at the Goldenrod Supermarts again, and faced the red Gyarados. And as nervous as I was, we caught it on the very first nest ball. Boom, another Gyarados that is bulletproof for this challenge, being in all Pokemon games, even with the ability Intimidate, the best ability in Pokemon. We continued with the plan by trading the red scale to Mr. Pokemon and then unlock the experience share, the most important item for the rest of this challenge. Oh, and while doing all of this, I randomly ran into Raikou and Entei, funny enough. I tried my luck by throwing some Pokeballs, but it didn't work. I failed and they ran away, and I'm sad now. But at this point, Gyarados was a walking machine gun. It was deleting everything in his path. And after clearing every trainer that I could think of, even the trainers at the Team Rocket hideouts, I challenged Chuck and destroyed him and easily earned our 5th gym badge for this challenge. It was time to spin again, and this time we landed in the Hoenn region. Now, when I started this challenge, I originally thought that I'd be bouncing between original games like Pokemon Red and Blue and Ruby and Sapphire, all the way up to the Scarlet and Violet games. But then I realized we started this entire challenge in a remake of Johto, Kanto, not Pokemon Gold and Silver. So to keep things consistent, I decided to always play the remakes for whatever region we rolled in, which meant we were heading into the remakes of the Hoenn games, Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And this wasn't scripted because the time for this region could not have been better. Because in the Hoenn remakes, after getting your 5th gym badge, your rival teleports you to New Mobile, which starts the path towards Fortree City, where the next gym badge is at. But on Route 118, Latios just randomly appears and takes you to a mysterious island, where Latios just casually joins your team for free. And just like that, by spinning the Hoenn region for our 6th gym badge, we unlocked our first legendary Pokemon and our first Mega Pokemon. Since this Latios comes with Latiosite, it's Mega Stone. And paired with Gyarados and Roselia, our team was suddenly on another level. And for the first time in Pokemon history, Cast Form was actually useful. Don't tell Michael I said this, but I think Cast Form is one of the most useless Pokemon ever. But this time, in this challenge, it actually mattered, because Cast Form comes holding the Mystic Water item, which boosts Water-type moves. That item went straight onto Gyarados as I was depositing Cast Form in the box, and it made it even more ridiculous with our Gyarados. Thank you, Cast Form, for the item. Also, while I was depositing Cast Form because I have no use for it, I brought Mareep onto the team. And after that, it was honestly just Sweep City. We destroyed Winona, grabbed our 6th gym badge, spin the Kalos region for our next gym, and thankfully our Mega Pokemon were still usable. And at this point in the game in the Kalos region, all we really had to do was progress the story to reach our next gym. So we started at the Pokeball Factory, defeated Team Flare, and earned our first Master Ball, which was absolutely massive because it meant any future legendary encounter was guaranteed. And thanks to the XP, our team was getting insanely strong with all the experience all our Pokemon were getting. Mareep already evolved all the way up to an Ampharos, basically replacing Unhinged Roll as our electric type ace. We also took a small detour to grab a shiny stone to evolve Roselia into Roserade, which was kind of risky because if we spin Kanto and play the remakes, Roserade would become unusable. But at this point in the challenge with only a few gym badges left, I felt safe taking that risk since it seemed unlikely. We then stopped Team Flare from stealing Abomasnow, which is honestly so random. Like, why is Abomasnow in the middle of this plot with Team Flare taking over the world and becoming rich and immortal? Is it really that powerful in Pokemon lore? Oh, and if you didn't notice, we've had a Tyrogue on our team since the Johto region that I named Mon, and it finally evolved into a Hitmonchan in this icy cave, only for it to immediately die in its first battle to a Dual Blade with Iron Head, all while it had the move Fire Punch, a super effective move. This is why we can't have nice things. Unbelievable. Then it was time to fight Olympia, who canonically has psychic powers and can see into the future. Unfortunately for her, I don't think she saw how hard she was about to lose to my Gyarados because we absolutely destroyed her. We grabbed our 7th gym badge and a handy TM for Calm Mind, and it was time to spin again. This time, we were back in the Sinnoh region for the 2nd time. And honestly, this is probably the worst outcome we could have spinned at this point in the challenge, because the only ace gym leader in the entire series who specializes in electric type Pokemon is Volkner. And that is a nightmare for our ace, Gyarados, who is 4 times weak to electric type moves. So once again, we had to pivot our main Pokemon from Geodude to Pikachu to Roselia to Gyarados to now Latios as our new ace for this challenge. So with Latios being our new ace, the first thing I want to do was teach it Calm Mind that we had gotten from Olympia in the previous game. So we flew to Kanalavi City and used the move deleter to delete Fly. And that's when I realized something really bad. We no longer had the HM for Fly in our bag. Not because we didn't get Fly in the previous games, it's because I just forgot that we had gotten Fly from the rival before Fortree City. So for some reason, I just accepted my fate, and this trainer here became a triathlete. I literally ran everywhere. We ran from Kanalave City across the entire region to Valor Lakefront, only to realize that we needed to progress the story near Snow Point City. So we ran all the way north to Lake Acuity, did a 2 minutes of dialogue with the Team Galactic member, and then ran all the way back south to Valestone City to defeat Team Galactic and Cyrus for the first time. We grabbed our 2nd Master Ball, and then we ran all the way to Mount Coronet across the region again, and climbed to the top and watched Cyrus summon the 2 box art legendary Pokemon, Dialga and Palkia. Then it fell into the Distortion World, it got all distorted, and fought Cyrus again. And man, in Pokemon Platinum, Cyrus has an insane team. And funny enough, he somehow has a Crobat, which goes completely against everything Cyrus stands for. He's supposed to be an emotionless human who sees no value in friendship, yet Crobat literally requires friendship to evolve. So I generally do not know how this guy pulled that off. And right off the bat in this battle, his Houndoom shocked me by using Thunder Fang on my Gyarados, who was almost 20 levels above his Houndoom, and he almost dies. Oh my god, that was a crit too, dude. Oh my god. But luckily, I bounced back and used Marigny and Elanius to deal with his insanely strong team. And man, putting Mareep on the team last minute in the previous region paid off big time, because Marigny was able to take down Houndoom, Hunchcrow, and even Crobat with Discharge. It fully proved itself as a core team member. I am so proud of it. Thanks for obeying me and not thinking bad thoughts. After watching Cyrus have a meltdown and talking just forever, like dang, I had to press A like 20 times, we encountered a literal deity Pokemon, Giratina, and I immediately chunked my Master Ball at it, securing our second legendary Pokemon, who I named Gyaraworld. You know, Giratina, Distortion World, Gyaraworld. And for some reason, it was level 47. I still don't know why it was level 47. It's such a random number, but whatever, I'll take it. I will own a God legendary Pokemon at level 47. And then after running through the entire region, Professor Rowan wanted us to visit his lab in Sanjum Town for some reason. So we ran all the way over there as well, and then we were finally able to unlock Route 222 to gain access to Sunny Shore City. So again, we ran across the entire region, all because I thought we didn't have the Fly HM when we actually did. And then it was finally time to challenge our last gym leader, Volkner. And Volkner ended up being really easy with our new Pokemon, Latios. We calm-minded just once and cleared his entire team with Dragon Breath. And just like that, we earned our 8th gym badge, and it was time for the Elite Four in the final region. And remember, up to this point, the only regions that we had not spinned yet were Kanto, Alola, and Paldea. And Alola was added to the spinner for the last spin because it doesn't have any gym badges, but they do have a Pokemon League, so I allowed it. And when we spin for the final region, it just barely landed on Kanto, with Paldea sitting right next to it. We were going to finish this challenge in a new region either way. So our final destination became Kanto, which again was probably the worst possible outcome we could have gotten, because not only do Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green have one of the toughest Elite Four and champion fights in the entire series, but we also immediately lost Giratina, which we had used a Master Ball on, and Roserade, who we evolved with our Shiny Stone and did the risk, since neither of these Pokemon are available in Generation 3. And on top of that, a ton of our Pokemon lost important moves, like Latios was in Headbutt, Gyarados with Ice Fang and Aqua Tail, and Ampharos with Power Gym and Discharge. And to make things even worse, Gyarados got heavily nerfed in this generation because there was no physical special split yet, which meant his Water-type stab moves were suddenly way weaker than they should have been. But whatever, we've never been to the Kanto region before, so we had a lot of catching up to do. So I first grabbed the Psychic TM from Mr. Psychic in Saffron City and taught it to Elanius. Then I defeated literally every trainer that I could think of to level up Elanius as much as possible, since it was going to be our main Pokemon for the Elite Four. I even stopped by the game quarter and literally brute force bought enough coins for Thunderbolt and Ice Beam. I spent like 100,000 Pokemon coins, but we were rich because we really have not spent our money at all in the last two regions. And I gave Thunderbolt to Ampharos and Ice Beam to Latios for when it faces Lance's Dragons. We then went to Seafoam Islands and I chucked my Master Ball at the Articuno and caught it in one go. Since I didn't really properly prepare for it, it was kind of an impulsive decision. And then on my way to Zapdos, I spent 60,000 Pokédollars and bought 50 Ultra Balls. And what do you know? Zapdos at red health, while being paralyzed, literally broke out of every single Ultra Ball I threw at it. All 50 of them. I just wasted all that money for absolutely nothing and knocked it out of pure disgust. I just couldn't believe that just happened. What are the odds of that happening? All right, whatever. I don't need Zapdos, honestly. I have Ampharos, so whatever. And Moltres was unavailable because it's in the Civi Islands in the remakes after you become the champion, so Articuno was the only legendary Pokemon that I could capture at this point in the game. And by this time, it became my mission to find every rare candy in the Kanto region and give them all to Elanius, since it was clearly the best option for the Elite Four as a legendary Pokemon with the move Calm Mind. And after defeating my rival on the way to Victory Road, I found my 11th rare candy and fed them all to Elanius, bringing it up to level 75. So heading into the Elite Four, our final team was this: Latios, Ampharos, Articuno, Gyarados, Haunter, and our shiny Gyarados, just in case Intimidate was needed as a sacrifice. And now it was finally time to take on the Elite Four for this ultimate challenge. The first Elite Four member, Lorelei, went extremely smoothly, with Marigny shredding her entire team using Thunderbolts. Bruno was also really easy, as Elanius set up Calm Mind and destroyed his Rock and Fire-type Pokemon with Psychic. Agatha's Poison-type Pokemon were no match either, since Elanius' Psychic just erased them, and Lance's famous Dragon-type Pokemon were just completely destroyed by my Elanius' calm-minded boosted Ice Beam. He just didn't have a chance either. And then it was time for the final battle against the champion himself, Blue. And honestly, same story. Elanius just swept him with Calm Mind and Psychic. He did have a moment there where he whirlwinded my Elanius, getting rid of his Calm Mind boost, but unluckily for him, he sent out my Marigny, so I just Thunderbolted him and brought out Elanius again and calm-minded and swept. And boom, the challenge was completed. And while our Pokemon were being conducted into the Hall of of Fame, I realized our Haunter is our longest surviving Pokemon, even though we barely used it along the way. We caught it all the way back in the first region in Johto inside Bellsprout Tower, and from there it traveled across 9 different games to become champion. What a legend. And hey, if you want to watch the full 2-hour supercut of this challenge, click right here to watch it on my gaming channel.